Hey ladies, Alicia here. So I wanted to do one more introductory video about another book. The other video is about this one, which I just shared a couple of my really biggest takeaways from this book and how it was fundamental in the earlier part of my journey. And then in this video, I want to talk about this book, which is another, I think these are the two biggest early books that I read last summer, fall, that were just huge and that just gave me pieces that have stayed with me. This one, if you happen to follow my Facebook page at all last year, you know I started doing some Facebook videos about this book in the fall. That's one reason I decided not to include it here. Also, I just want to tell you, if you haven't heard me talk about it yet, a few of you and I have talked about the ideas from this book. So like the upper limit and the zone of genius, you might have heard some of those words, whether you've talked to me about them or not. But I just wanted to mention a couple of things, and then if you're interested in more, you can read this book. You can always come on and talk about this book, and I'll be glad to talk about these concepts. Some of them are kind of foundational, and I want to just get into the hidden barriers and kind of tell you about how, after I read this book, I had several tools that I felt like I didn't have before, an understanding of things that I needed to do, but then I also just had a couple of lingering questions that didn't get answered until a later book, and I'm going to cover those when I get into that book that we are going to read together. So this is not going to be one of our official books this month, but I wanted to just cover a few ideas. Okay, so his initial basic premise in this book is the upper limit, and basically this is The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, and basically he just says that from his experience working with people for years, as a counselor and coach and such, that he found from his own experience and his clients that we as humans have an upper limit, that each of us has this upper limit, this ceiling, this point at which we won't let ourselves be more happy and successful than that point. And he says especially if we're like happy in relationships, then we'll sabotage ourselves in finances, or vice versa. We especially like have trouble letting ourselves be happy and successful in like several big areas of life at the same time. And he basically just kind of talks about how we need to dismantle that barrier, and it's basically limiting beliefs. And if we can dismantle them, then we can remove that ceiling, we can remove the upper limit, and we really enable ourselves to expand to our full potential, as he likes to say, and just in our quest in this group for personal power and freedom, that's important. It's important to figure that out. And okay, so upper limit is his main concept, and I do highly recommend this book. He goes into a bunch of different practical ways that we tend to upper limit ourselves, and he talks about, as he talks to people about this concept, he would see them saying, like, sharing in his group, like, oh, I've caught myself upper limiting myself, and that kind of thing. And so that's a good way to think about it. One of his tips was, like, worrying. Do you find yourself worrying for no reason? And he even talks about headaches, which I was going to tell you guys, I've found in the last 4 months, whenever I get super excited and, like, have a breakthrough and I'm, like, really happy, or have a really good day, sometimes I'll wake up the next day with a headache, and I never used to get headaches ever. And for me, like, I've identified that as an upper limit problem, and so or issue or manifestation, like, just, it's a symptom of the upper limit, of just me wrestling with success and being happy and just letting myself, after years of settling and shutting myself down and not letting myself, try to be happy or try to do what I want. It's a process. It's a real process that I've been through, and I want to share with you all and encourage you and help us encourage each other that it's possible and that we can do it, and that the hiccups and the struggles and the headaches and the whatever it is along the way is natural and is part of the process. And I learned before too long, because of having read this book and remembering that idea, if I wake up with a headache, I take time to journal and meditate and think and work through and try to identify, like, I try to write down my thoughts and do some of, like, the thought exercises of just, like, what am I thinking? Sometimes I need to, like, correct bad thoughts, and sometimes I just need to, like, do some affirmation work around being worthy or whatever. Which brings me to his next point. Oh, no, wait, there's another one. Okay. So, oh no, I hope I don't need water. I should always have a water bottle when I'm gonna learn, because I haven't done videos for a while, but I'm gonna be doing them for you guys. I'm super excited. I'm so glad you guys, I really appreciate all of you being here. If you're watching this, I need this. I need people to talk to. I need people to help me hash out some of these ideas, and I need to have a water bottle next time. Anyway, so his concepts in the Big Leap, the upper limit is kind of his like main thesis, main premise of the book. But then he talks about the 4 zones, and it's like the zone of incompetence, the zone of competence, the zone of excellence, and the zone of genius. And for many of us, he talks about how the zone of excellence is this place where we work really hard to get there. And then it's tempting to just stay in that place. But he says if you just stay there, some small part of you will die. And I would say that's the soul. Like now, like I would, that's the whole thing we're going to get into. But your soul's going to pull you toward the zone of genius. The zone of genius is where you want to be. That's where you're going to grow. It's your highest, your true self, your highest self. It's your highest contribution. You ever hear your best use, highest and best use, whatever. It's the thing that lights you up, that challenges you. That's your zone of genius. And the trick is that the zone of excellence, it's like it's good. It's a good place. You're usually making good money. And what's hard is that people in your life, sort of, they'll like you there. You're dependable, you're consistent, you're helping them be successful, don't rock the boat, just stay where you are. I was at a job for a while, and, people around me were like, why can't you just be happy? And I'm like, I feel like I should just be happy, but I'm not. And that's because I had grown as much as I could grow there, and my inner self, my inner being that was called to more was just like, it's time to grow past this, it's time to go move on, and they didn't want to let me grow there, and so I had to leave. Anyways, so upper limit, super important concept I like to be able to refer to. So now we're on the same page, kind of. I guess I'm kind of in these introductory videos, I'm kind of giving you some introductory vocabulary so that then you can use it, you can talk about the concept. You don't have to read either of these books, you don't have to read this book to be able to just kind of, and feel free to like ask a question about it if you're thinking about it and you think you're thinking about it right or whatever, and we can weigh in or whatever, those of us who know about it. So the upper limit, and then this zone of excellence versus zone of genius. And just if you hear about the zone of genius concept, sometimes I've heard it's becoming a concept that people are familiar with and tossing that word around. That's kind of, this is where that idea comes from. And then the next one is he goes into this idea of how to identify your upper limit and remove it. And he talks about these 4 hidden barriers that are really limiting beliefs, and I want to read them to you, and it's kind of like, he calls it an upper limit mantra, and there's like 4 versions of it. So number 1 is feeling fundamentally flawed, and so that's when you believe, I cannot expand to my full creative genius because something is fundamentally wrong with me. And that also gets into like, who am I, who do I think I am I worthy, do I deserve this, kind of all that. And he says everybody has at least one, possibly 2 of these as like their primary. Okay, number 2 is disloyalty and abandonment. I cannot expand to my full success because it would cause me to end up all alone, be disloyal to my roots, and leave behind people from my past. The third one is believing that more success brings a bigger burden. I can't expand to my highest potential because I'd be an even bigger burden than I am now. Now, sometimes I struggle with, I get long-winded, and I love talking to people and in front of people and helping people, and I love teaching, and I love doing videos. And so I have to struggle with the, I need to shut up and stop because my video is too long, I'm not going to want to listen to it. That's kind of a symptom of, I'm too much, I'll be too much. If I share my genius, if I share my heart, somehow I'll burden people, right? There's just a limiting belief, a tendency. Right, number 4, the crime of outshining. I must not expand to my full success because if I did, I would outshine so-and-so and make him or her look or feel bad. And it says this barrier is very common among gifted and talented children. When I first read this book, that just jumped off the page at me, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's my issue. I've struggled with that my whole life. Oldest kid, straight A student, gifted and talented program. Always felt like I was breaking the curve, right? Remember when teachers used to grade on a curve, and so if you got 100, then it didn't change it. But if you only got 91, then the person who got 81 got 78 got a B, whatever. Anyways, yeah, so I did some real mindset work around that. And then I had a couple of clients who struggled with the first one, and then the more I dealt with the last one, the more I found myself kind of having a little bit of the others. And I struggled with the one that was like feeling fundamentally flawed or unworthy in some way. And I talked to my coach about it, and she was like, well, if you struggle with it or have trouble helping with somebody else with it, that's indicative that you believe it, because if you don't believe it, then you're able to see through it and you're able to speak to it or whatever. Anyways, with all 4 of these, so for the rest of the book, he goes into practical things to do, really good list of ways to walk this out. And he gets into this really fun thing about time and your relationship with time. But basically, with these 4, I found myself searching for an answer to like how to know that we're worthy and how to just be confident being awesome, right? And just being comfortable with being awesome. And part of the answer I found in The Power of Intention, which is going to be, let me just grab it. This is going to be one of our books. This is going to be one of our books. I was debating whether to, can you see that? Yeah, my monitor looks funny. Whether to try to really backtrack my journey and start bumping the table and really try to take y'all through books that I've, have read and gotten something out of. But then I was like telling a friend, was one of you, I was saying that I was like, I'm excited about this one. This is the one I just read. I want to dive into it. And it answered some of the things. It pulled together a bunch of these other ideas that kind of, these other books introduced me to things, but I had questioned. And then he just really helped pull a bunch of them together. And she was like, well, talk about that. Talk about what you're excited about. So, I'm going to finalize the list and do another video introducing that. But I just wanted to really talk about these 2 because they're awesome. And I'm literally going to sit here and look and see if there's another one. I think there are others that I will get to. I'm figuring out what to say, hey, let's read together, and then which ones to just kind of, I'll do a quick video and pull it in and just mention a concept. But there you go, The Big Leap, super big, super fun book, lots of interesting concepts, and I'm really excited to refer to these different ideas and pull them together and tie them in as we read some of these other books. Alright, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. Feel free to leave a comment and let us know what you think about all of this.